Hey everyone. So let's dive into a question that's sitting in pretty much every boardroom right now when we talk about sustainability. It's this: how do we actually decarbonize our business? And more importantly, where's the return on that investment?
This quote just hits the nail on the head. Out in public, everyone's on board. Yes, decarbonization is essential, but behind those closed doors, the real conversation, the one that drives decisions, is all about the bottom line. That's the tension every single business leader is wrestling with.
And you see, for the longest time, this was all about PR or maybe just ticking a compliance box. But that's just not the case anymore. The game has totally changed. We're talking about capital markets, regulators, even your customers. They're all rewriting the rules. Carbon is now a real, tangible cost. And all that operational inefficiency, well, that's no longer just waste. It's a direct financial risk.
Which, of course, brings us to the real question. We're way past the if we should do this. We're squarely in the how. So which specific moves are going to give you a real, measurable ROI, and which ones are just, well, a good way to burn through capital? Our job today is to separate the winners from the wannabes.
Okay, so to find that answer, we first need a really simple way to think about value. When you boil it all down, there are really only three ways that any of these efforts are going to put money back in your pocket. The magic, the actual ROI, happens when cutting your carbon footprint lines up with one of these three business drivers. First, and most obviously, is direct cost reduction. We're talking smaller energy bills. Simple. Second, you've got risk mitigation, like protecting yourself from wild swings in energy prices. And third, you can actually drive new revenue by beefing up your position in the market. All right, so with that framework in our back pocket, let's get into the good stuff. Let's look at the initiatives that time and time again prove to be the real winners when it comes to return on investment. And look, the undisputed champion, the most reliable, bankable performer in this whole playbook is energy efficiency. I know, might not be the sexiest strategy, but it is absolutely the most financially sound place for anyone to start. And just look at how practical these examples are. We are not talking about some futuristic pie-in-the-sky tech here. We're talking about upgrading to high-efficiency motors, putting in smarter controls for your buildings, even just fixing leaks in your compressed air systems. These are things that cut emissions and your operating costs at the exact same time. And here's the number that should really make you pay attention. The typical payback period, we're talking 1 to 4 years. In the world of corporate finance, that is an incredibly fast, predictable, and solid return. It's what makes energy efficiency the absolute foundation of any smart decarbonization plan.
Now, our second big winner is digitization. And the best way to think about this one isn't as a single project, but more like a powerful amplifier, a turbocharger really, for every other effort you're making. It has this incredible multiplier effect on your ROI. And here's exactly how it works. You're using data, you're using sensors, maybe some AI, to unlock performance gains that were just invisible before. Suddenly, you can shift your big production runs to avoid those crazy peak electricity prices. You can use predictive maintenance to spot a machine that's wasting energy before it breaks down. You're cutting down on waste. The return here is just pure operational excellence.
But, not every idea is such a clear home run. Some of the big-ticket items, like electrification or putting solar panels on your roof, have what we call a conditional ROI. So for electrification, the payback math depends entirely on what you're paying for electricity versus what you pay for, say, natural gas. And for renewables, the real driver often isn't just about making cheap power, it's about locking in a price for the next 20 years to protect yourself from market volatility. These aren't simple buys, they are serious strategic plays. So, just as important as knowing what to do is knowing what not to do. Let's talk about the common traps, the places where good capital goes to die without making any real structural improvement to the business. And wow, this comparison just says it all, doesn't it? Over here on the left, you have real value, actual operational change, integrating systems, all driven by a solid economic reason. And on the right, you have the traps. Symbolic stuff, like buying carbon offsets without changing a thing, these little pilot projects that look good but never actually go anywhere, and picking some new tech because it's great for a press release, not because it makes any business sense. So the lesson here is really clear. If you want real, lasting ROI, decarbonization has to be woven into the very fabric of your operational systems. It has to be part of how you run the business day in and day out. It cannot just be a side project or a PR campaign. Okay, so how do you pull all of this together? Let's make this super practical.
This final section is your strategic playbook, a clear, actionable path to make sure your decarbonization efforts are actually making your business stronger.
Right. A truly winning strategy thinks bigger. It's not just project by project. It's modeling what a future price on carbon might do to your P&L. It's using smart financing tools like green loans to lower that upfront capital hit. And maybe most importantly, it ensures you have oversight that connects what's happening on the factory floor all the way up to the boardroom.
And look, if you only remember one thing from our time together today, make it this. This is your practical, disciplined framework. Number 1, attack inefficiency first. It's the lowest hanging fruit. Then, stabilize your exposure to energy prices. Number 3, electrify, but only where it is clearly rational to do so. 4, innovate, but do it selectively on things that can really move the needle. And 5, leave the carbon offsets for the absolute very end. This hierarchy protects your cash and makes sure you get the biggest wins first.
So let's end with this really powerful idea. When you reframe the whole challenge, you start to see that managing carbon is really just another way of managing waste. And any business leader on the planet knows that when you reduce waste, you improve your margins. It's that simple. See, decarbonization is no longer just a sustainability thing. It's the next frontier of operational excellence. It's about building a business that's more resilient, more efficient, and at the end of the day, a whole lot more competitive.